Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Zoe Merchant webinar for July 26, 2017. Today, I have Daniel Ziegler with ShipperHQ on the line. He's going to talk about shipping challenges and some ways to get those solved. We've had shipping conversations on this webinar series in the past, but most of them have focused on processing shipments once orders are placed, but there's a lot more to it than that. And ShipperHQ has a lot of really strong solutions that can cover a variety of different shipping logic scenarios that Zoe by default doesn't offer. So we're really excited to present this information to you today and share with you how you can take advantage of it. Before we begin, though, for those of you who have never attended a webinar, we want to remind you that there is a questions feature inside GoToWebinar that you can use to submit your questions for our Q&A, which will take place after the presentation. We'll review your questions and provide answers, and if we happen to run out of time, we'll certainly send out a written Q&A afterwards, but we should have enough time for today's Q&A as part of our hour presentation. And we'd like to remind you that there's also more webinars to come. This is number 11, so we've done already 10 other webinars that are available for review. Both the webinar recordings and the slides are available at that URL, zoe.com/merchant-webinars. But also remember that we will announce upcoming webinars there. At the end of the presentation, I will share with you what we have planned for August, so that way you can start to plan ahead. And we look forward to seeing you on those as well. Without further ado, though, I'd like to introduce Daniel at this point from ShipperHQ. He's going to talk to you about some of the shipping challenges that you might encounter as a merchant and ways that you can solve them. Daniel, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Josh. It's good to be here with you, and thanks everyone for making the time to join us today. As Josh said, we're going to be focusing on some of the shipping challenges, and particularly with ShipperHQ, what we're talking about is the customer experience as they're going through the cart or checkout when it comes to showing them shipping rates and options. So that's what we focus on at ShipperHQ. It's different from what other providers focus on. We're complementary to providers like Shipping Easy or ShipStation that you're probably familiar with. They're focused on what we call the back-end shipping process, what happens once the order's been placed. With ShipperHQ, we're really focused on the front-end process, what's happening around shipping, as the customer's going through that checkout. So this has a pretty substantial impact on conversion rates and abandonment rates. So you'll hear me talking about that as we go through it, along with a few other key things. As we get started here, I want to just introduce kind of what we're doing at ShipperHQ, what we focus on, give you a little bit of background. So to start with the background, we started back in 2008, initially doing shipping extensions for the Magento e-commerce platform only. In 2014, we launched ShipperHQ, which brought together all of the functionality of our 40 or 50 different extensions into a single product, and also allowed us to expand outside of the Magento world. And Zoe was one of the first platforms that we expanded to outside of Magento. So we've been on Zoe for a number of years here, and have a pretty wide variety of clients on Zoe who are using ShipperHQ to kind of address a number of different shipping needs. So our goal really is to solve for the big three shipping challenges, as we call them. Number one is to increase conversion and reduce abandonment. Obviously, that's pretty much the goal of any e-commerce provider, any merchant. That's going to be a critically important piece of what you're trying to do if you want to run a successful store. The next thing that we do is we want to eliminate unexpected undercharges. So if you want to do a promotion and offer free shipping, that's great. If you want to discount your shipping and give people a little bit of a break on shipping and build that into the cost of your product, that's great. But those are your decisions. They should be your decisions. We never want you to be in the scenario where you can't get the shipping rates to be accurate, and therefore you're losing money on shipping without being able to make the choice to do that as a promotion. And finally, to delight customers with additional options and promotions. We'll talk about that in more depth in just a second here. So those are the three things that we're really focused on at ShipperHQ. Because we're operating as part of the checkout process, we're able to impact these things in ways that other shipping-related software isn't able to. So what we do is essentially we understand that merchants have unique challenges and we're able to, in ShipperHQ, provide a flexible enough system to provide unique solutions to those challenges. So let's start with the challenge. The first challenge, and the most important one, is really that customers are demanding more. There's e-commerce retailers out there, the big guys like Amazon and Jet.com and Walmart, and you know, you could name off a list of a dozen of them that are out there, and they're doing more on shipping. And what they're doing essentially is building up customer expectations. There's been a number of studies done in the past few years, and this is we're looking here at some data from North America Technographics and also from UPS ComScore over the past few years, showing really the shifting demands of customers. You can see 16% of customers right there in the middle. You can see 16% of customers have abandoned their cart because there were no suitable delivery options. That maybe meant that they weren't even shown a delivery option. You know, they got a message that said, call us for shipping information, or you'll have to place your order offline by emailing us or calling us, and they just abandoned their cart and they didn't go any further. You can also see 44% have abandoned their carts because of high shipping costs. That goes back to what we're talking about with unexpected undercharges. What we want to do there is make sure that you can charge exactly what you want to charge or need to charge in every scenario, not have to build in a bunch of padding to try to make sure you don't undercharge. You can see how significant an impact that has on customer abandonment. You've also got some additional options that customers like to see. They're more likely to shop with retailers who offer free shipping, for example. Well, you need to be able to really control that free shipping. In many cases, you may be able to offer free shipping on most of your items, but maybe not all. Some items may be too expensive to ship for you to be able to build that cost into the product. You may also want to offer additional options on top of free shipping. Maybe you want to offer free standard shipping, but charge for things like expedited delivery. So that's where this 69% really kind of, if you're able to offer free shipping in more scenarios, you can start to convert more of these people, and you can also start to win them as repeat customers. 61% have abandoned carts because no free shipping was offered. So these guys are more likely to shop with retailers who offer free shipping. These guys have actually abandoned a shopping cart because there was no free shipping option. So again, showing you how important that free shipping is, and really, again, in the context of what we're talking about here, you need to make sure that you're able to offer free shipping to these customers and do so in kind of a controlled way. You can also see a couple other things here that a lot of sites don't do yet. Unfortunately, they're losing out on customers. Customers are abandoning their carts, or they are they're not converting because they're not seeing what they want to see. For example, alternate delivery options. This is something that is growing in popularity, especially in the past few years. Customers who don't necessarily want their package dropped off on their doorstep. Maybe they're in an urban area and they just can't have a package dropped on their doorstep. Maybe they're living in an apartment complex and the front office hours are inconvenient. So they want to be able to arrange some other sort of delivery. Both UPS and FedEx have rolled out options for this. Delivery to an alternate location nearby the customer's work or near the customer's house, where they can go and in convenient times go and pick that up. You see a much bigger push from companies like Amazon toward this as well, with Amazon's locker system. And there are companies in the US that are starting to roll out those kind of functionalities as well. And here as well, 60% want to see an estimated delivery date. No matter where you're shipping, customers want more information. Doesn't matter what you're shipping or who your customers are, the more information you can give them, the more trustworthy they perceive you as, especially if you're a smaller retailer working to build customer trust. Giving them more information, like either a guaranteed or even an estimated delivery date, helps to build that trust in you. You know what's going on. They can trust that you know how soon that package is going to get to them. So that's something that can have another kind of significant impact on customer conversion rates as well. So from what you can see here, you can see that there is a pretty high demand from customers for things that are not part of kind of the the core shipping functionality, the basic shipping functionality that's going to be included in what Zoe does. Zoe does a good job of kind of providing those base options, but it's available. Zoe supports small package rating from a single origin. They do support multiple carriers. So for most merchants, that's a good starting point. What we find though is the merchants who go above and beyond that with solutions like ShipperHQ are able to really have a positive impact on their conversion rate by putting in place the kind of things that ShipperHQ does. But it has been in the past, it's been very difficult to put those kind of solutions in place. More powerful options, you can see some of the challenges with those. High quality solutions are often costly. Flexible solutions are often very difficult to set up. They require even custom coding in some cases. To build a custom solution, possible if you've got a developer on your team or you're working with a web developer, but they often require both cost and time investment. And shipping is a very technical and very kind of specific set of skills. So a developer that doesn't necessarily know exactly, all of the challenges around shipping may face additional challenges when trying to build a custom solution. Low-cost solutions are often low quality or limited in functionality, unfortunately. And also most solutions that are out there are going to really just be kind of one step above what Zoe supports natively. They're not going to go that additional step to the point where it's going to have those positive impacts on conversions that we were just looking at on the last slide. So that's really where ShipperHQ comes in. What we're doing here is we're essentially trying to kind of open the doors to you so that you can set up shipping the way that you want to set up shipping. That you can offer exactly the options you want to offer in every single case for the rates that you want to or need to offer in every single case. So in order to do that, we support a pretty wide variety of logistics providers. You'll see on here many that you'd recognize that are supported in Zoe already, like UPS, USPS, and FedEx, but also a number of additional ones that may be important depending on what you're shipping and where you're shipping it. For example, for international shipping, DHL from the US, or if you're based in Australia or Canada, you want to have options available to you for rating that are kind of addressing what your customers are expecting, or the best option to get the package to the customer. DHL, for example, ships, they provide international service from the US outbound to hundreds of, or almost 200 countries. And it's often much cheaper than the service provided by UPS or FedEx, but it's often a higher quality of service with door-to-door tracking in almost all cases, a higher quality of service than USPS. So what you've got there is you've got kind of this additional option, this provider that's sitting there serving the United States, but it's not always available as kind of a core integration, or even if it is, the functionality alongside that is relatively limited. We'll get into that in just a minute here.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to pause you there because this is actually something that comes up a lot with our Zoe customers, and I just wanted to underscore this because I think it's a really important point. We get requests all the time for support for certain carriers, and by default, Zoe supports a certain number of them. But it's really important to note here that with the ShipperHQ integration, you get access to a larger set of carriers than Zoe supports natively, and can use those carriers with ShipperHQ turned on to be able to offer that to customers. So, for instance, we do not have Canada Post or Australia Post as a native option today, but if you're looking to ship using those options, ShipperHQ can fill that gap. So for those watching the recording or live who have been asking about these carriers, I just wanted to underscore that, so that way people understand that this does open the door for those carriers to be available through Zoe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that, Josh. Yeah, you can see here we've got over 30 carrier integrations in place on ShipperHQ, and for any of those 30, including this list that you see here on the right-hand side, those are all available. You can, if you've got an account with that provider, you can plug in your credentials in ShipperHQ, connect that to your Zoe store, and start to show your customers those options. So, like Josh said, especially Australia Post and Canada Post. It's pretty critical if you're based in one of those countries to be able to offer those delivery options. With ShipperHQ and Zoe, you can make that happen. The other set of carriers I want to mention here as well is LTL, less than truckload freight carriers. So this is something that Zoe doesn't support natively, but is really growing in importance. So if you're shipping large orders, if you're doing B2B shipping, or if you've got large or bulky items that you sell, whether that's B2B or B2C, using LTL freight carriers, you may already be using those to ship those items out. But with ShipperHQ, you can actually provide customers with real-time rates for LTL services in the cart or in the checkout process as they're going through that by connecting ShipperHQ to Zoe. So this is really a pretty substantial expansion on the available carriers that you can offer in your Zoe store. The other set of options here are what we call custom rate options. So these are scenarios where you may want to define your own shipping rates. Rating tables, what that option allows you to do is set up a table of rates based on anything from zone and weight to customer groups of products that may have different rates. You can set up rates based on quantity. There's a lot of different options and flexibilities there. And what that allows you to do is if you run your own delivery services, maybe in a local area, you've got a guy with a couple trucks and he delivers stuff for you locally. If you use a small carrier, maybe a smaller regional or local carrier to do some of your deliveries, you can set up their rates within ShipperHQ. So we don't have to always do a technical integration with the carrier in order to make use of it. And in fact, there are some carriers out there who just don't have APIs. For example, DHL e-commerce is one of the kind of growing in popularity options for especially international shipping, and as compared to DHL Express, which does have an API, DHL e-commerce doesn't have an API. But with ShipperHQ, you can load in that table of rates, and you can get rating for DHL e-commerce coming back accurately. You've also got a couple other options often used as promotional tools, flat rates, for example, if you want to charge $5 shipping, $5 standard shipping for everybody. You want to offer free shipping for everybody, or free shipping for customers over a certain dollar amount, or who are ordering specific products. You can set those up in ShipperHQ as well. We also have options for local delivery where you can set a radius. How far away from you do you actually deliver to people's houses if you do that? Or same-day delivery. If you've got somebody locally that offers same-day delivery services, this is another growing area. You can offer that using ShipperHQ's same-day delivery service and just define the rates, based on whatever you need to define them on. So this is all about really expanding the options that are available to your customers. I'd encourage you, if the carrier of choice that you want to take a look at is not on this list over here, these are just some of our most popular carrier integrations. Like I said, we've got over 30 that are directly integrated with ShipperHQ. All it takes is plugging in your credentials from the carrier that you can get straight from them, and you're kind of up and running. It doesn't take long at all to get up and running with any of the carriers that we support. On top of that, we also provide additional functionality. Now, this is where we get into kind of the second most important piece of what ShipperHQ is doing. So that first piece would really be expanding the options of carriers and shipping options that you can provide to your customers. But on top of that, as we saw earlier, there are other expectations that customers have. Stuff like alternate delivery options, estimated delivery dates, promotional rules around free shipping, things that really can impact whether or not a customer actually buys from you and whether or not that customer becomes a repeat customer later on. So ShipperHQ's additional functionalities, what we call advanced features, really allows you to dig into that and set up things that make you different from your competitors, and allow you to compete with even some of the big providers like Amazon or Walmart. In many cases, you can actually start to do what they're doing without having to spend the millions of dollars that they've spent building those out custom. To run through these, especially some of the most important ones when it comes to kind of rating accuracy and cart abandonment, The first one there on the left, you'll see the rules engine that really allows you kind of that full control I've been talking about. If you want to show certain options in certain scenarios, maybe we were talking about free shipping, for example. If you want to do the discounts in certain scenarios, or even if you want to surcharge in certain scenarios, you've got some products maybe that need a handling fee added on top. If you need to add that in, you can do that using our rules engine. You can also do stuff around setting up which carriers are best suited in which scenarios. So you've got, say you're shipping items that, some items really need to ship on a freight truck. Well, you can set that up using ShipperHQ's rules engine so that customers are seeing the option that applies to their specific order. Somebody who's ordering a box of paper clips from you is not getting shown a massive quote from a freight company, but somebody that's ordering a large industrial item or whatever, or a bathtub, isn't being shown USPS flat rate envelopes as an option. The next piece there, dimensional shipping. This is a critical piece when it comes to rating accuracy. So many of you will be familiar with the changes that UPS and FedEx have made in the past few years around their rating, where they're no longer just looking at the weight of the package and the distance to the destination. They're also looking at the dimensions of those packages. So when you hand over a shipment to FedEx or UPS, they're going to base the rate off of the greater of the volumetric weight, as it's called, the weight that's based on the dimensions, or the actual weight. And so what can end up happening in many cases is if you're not passing the dimensions of the packages over to the carrier when you're asking for the shipping rates back, you're going to be showing your customers the wrong rates. And that's most likely to be undercharging your customers. We've had customers, we had a customer who, not massive, he's doing maybe $1.5 million a year, but he was losing over $50,000 a year in shipping. He put ShipperHQ in place, and within the first quarter, he was breaking even on shipping, which was his goal. He wasn't looking to profit on it, but he didn't want to lose. He couldn't afford to lose $50,000 a year by undercharging, and that was really down to him putting in place dimensional shipping. ShipperHQ's dimensional shipping, you may have seen some other solutions out there. ShipperHQ's dimensional shipping works in kind of a unique way. We allow you to define your product dimensions right in Zoe, on your products in Zoe. And then in ShipperHQ, you can set up the packages you have available to pack items into. So when an order comes through, when a customer's got products in their cart and they're going through that checkout process, Zoe sends over to ShipperHQ what the product dimensions are of each product in that order. And then ShipperHQ works out from there what the most efficient package or packages are for that specific order. You've also got what we call dimensional rules that allow you more general control. So if you've got certain products that have to ship in certain boxes, maybe you sell perishable products that have to ship in a cooler, but you've got other products that don't. You can set up those kind of rules in ShipperHQ. You can also handle items that don't pack into a box with other items. If you think of like a flat screen TV, well, you're generally not going to pack that into a box with other things. It's a big box on its own. You're going to ship that separately. So you've got rules around when that needs to happen, as well as products that need to, when the product ships out, it ships in multiple packages. So a lot of flexibility there. You can see some of the options here. You can explore more of that on shipperhq.com. But the goal is that when we're asking the carrier for a shipping rate, that we can tell that carrier exactly the dimensions of the package that's going to be used, or the packages if there's multiple, and that allows them to return us very accurate rates based on their dimensional rating. In-store pickup, that's more or less a self-explanatory option, but I do want to say, especially in the case of Zoe, compared to some of the other platforms that ShipperHQ is connected to, Zoe is one of our most fully featured when it comes to in-store pickup. It allows you to show a map on checkout where your customers can see exactly where the store is. It allows you to show a calendar if you'd like, where the customers can choose the date they want to pick up the item, or even a time slot selector if you want them to choose when during the day they want to pick up the item. So that's great for anybody who's selling kind of custom made or purpose made stuff, or bakeries or anything food related, where you want to be able to kind of schedule out your production based on when customers are going to come in and pick up the items. So what we have on some other platforms, especially hosted platforms, is much less fully featured than this. So Zoe's got a leg up there in terms of allowing us to present all this information, store hours, contact info as well. Date and time, another really important piece. This is not necessarily related to accuracy, but you saw earlier how important that is to cart abandonment and customer expectations. So with this, you can show an estimated delivery date to your customers. That allows you to kind of tell them when to expect their package. And also, if you're doing, say, UPS ground, second day, and overnight, you can show a delivery date alongside each one of those. So a customer who's ordering at 11 p.m. on a Friday night and they choose overnight shipping, they won't be expecting to receive that on Saturday because we're going to show them a Tuesday delivery for that service. Same with the other services. We also allow you flexibility around setting up things like cutoff times, blackout days and dates that your warehouse may be closed or you may not be shipping out. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but it all comes down to showing a very accurate estimated delivery date. Another option, again, that's unique to Zoe among hosted platforms is the ability to show a calendar to allow the customer to choose the date that they want to have their order delivered to them. So if you think of like a gift item or a perishable item that's being shipped, like flowers, you're shipping flowers for Mother's Day, you want to be able to choose exactly when those flowers get to your mom's house. So that's the kind of stuff you can do with that date picker. Multi-origin, this is most important if you ship from multiple locations, or even if you're drop shipping some of your items. This really comes down to accuracy. So making sure that when ShipperHQ is generating a shipping rate, that we know what products are going to be shipped from which location, and we get a rate for each one of those shipments, and then bring that together when we show it to the customer. So that's something that if you're doing that, you probably have a good understanding of. It's something that is not natively supported in Zoe, but adding ShipperHQ in allows you that flexibility. You're also able to define which products are available from which locations. We also have the ability, if a product is available from multiple locations, to automatically have that shipped from the nearest one to the customer, or to group the order into as few shipments as possible. Those are some of the options that are available there. There's more flexibility there as well. I encourage you to check that out at shipperhq.com. A few others I won't cover in too much detail here because they're less common. Backup carriers, if unfortunately one of the live rate carrier APIs goes down, which happens from time to time. For example, UPS's API may have an issue and go down for half an hour. With backup carriers, you can tell ShipperHQ if UPS goes down, instead I want to show a flat rate, or I want to show FedEx, kind of however you want to deal with that, to make sure that your customers are still seeing shipping options, so that an issue on UPS's side doesn't have a negative impact on your customer's checkout. LTL freight, we talked about that a little bit earlier for shipping large or bulky items. And finally, address validation. So checking the address before the shipping rate is even given to the customer to make sure that they've entered an accurate address. One other piece of that is that, and this is a piece that's different from any other address validation service that's out there, is we're also getting back the address type. So if you use UPS or FedEx, you're familiar with the fact that they charge different rates for deliveries to commercial or residential locations. FedEx even has different services, FedEx Ground versus FedEx Home Delivery, that are available for residential versus commercial. So with ShipperHQ's address validation, we automatically determine that address type and can show the customer both the exact rate that they should be receiving for that shipment, as well as the correct options in cases like FedEx. To go over kind of how to get started, we try to make it as easy as possible, and in Zoe it's even easier than in some other areas. With Zoe, you're really setting up your ShipperHQ account at shipperhq.com. You'll get some credentials. You go back into your Zoe dashboard and you plug those in the shipping section, and that makes the connection. There's not much technical. I mean, there's really no technical work required, no programming or anything like that. The only thing you may want to do is if you've got a designer, they may want to change the colors of the calendar or something like that on the front end, but none of that's kind of required. I mentioned earlier also, Zoe has the broadest support for ShipperHQ features compared to any other hosted platform. So with ShipperHQ and Zoe together, you're really getting kind of the highest level of flexibility in terms of what you can show your customers. We've got a couple examples here on the right-hand side showing a map with a pickup location there in the top. That's not possible in most other e-commerce platforms. Or it's not possible on other hosted platforms. In terms of getting set up with ShipperHQ, there's no required setup or implementation fee. We've got a knowledge base with walkthroughs and videos on getting set up. There's a support team that's available through both UK and US business hours. So we cover about 14, 15 hours of the day that we're available in real time if you have any issues or need any help. We do also offer configuration services where we'll help you get set up. And even before you get to the point where you're ready to get set up, we're also happy to talk through with you what you're looking to do, what some of your challenges are. If you're seeing that your customers are abandoning their cart because your shipping rates are too high, talk through with us how we might be able to help you solve that. What other shipping options might be out there, how we might be able to help you make your rates more accurate. Often we're not looking at something terribly complex here. Often a few small changes can make a very significant difference. I had a lady the other day who called in who had been, was very concerned. She was overcharging her clients. She really wanted to bring that under control. And within about 15, 20 minutes, we had her set up, and she was, her rates were spot on accurate. And it just took a few things, putting in place a few things for her to really make that difference. So we're not always talking about something complex here. You can see that last line, simple configurations take less than an hour. It may be simple, it may take less than an hour, but that doesn't mean it's not going to have a massive impact both on your accuracy as well as making sure that you're charging the amount that you need to charge and improving your conversion rate, most importantly. So finally here, before we go into Q&A, I just want to cover kind of two things. One is to talk about a few of our customers, just because I think they're interesting cases. And then finally also to just show you our pricing as well. So here are a few ShipperHQ customers. You can see we've got a pretty wide range of customers. Some big companies like Hilton and Zippo. There's McCormick. There's a few others on our site if you want to see some of those. Down to smaller operations. Bright Acrotech there on the right-hand side, for example. They sell agricultural equipment, and that is stuff that is just terribly difficult to sell online. So what they did was they came to ShipperHQ and as part of switching over to a different carrier, they also put ShipperHQ in, and they attribute about a 22% growth in their sales in a very short period of time to making those changes in terms of what they were offering to their customers. They added in LTL shipping for their customers. There's a case study on this on our website if you'd like to take a look at it. You've also got there in the middle Jenny's Ice Cream. So they're well, they were small, they're growing pretty quickly, up in Columbus, Ohio, an ice cream company, and they sell some of the best ice cream around. If you haven't tried it, check it out. You can actually order on their website ice cream to be shipped to your door. Of course, that's a pretty complex thing to do, and so they use ShipperHQ to make sure that only the correct options that can get that ice cream to the customer's door before it turns into soup are shown to every single customer. So if they're nearby, they can show them a pretty cheap ground option. If they're far away, they have to show them a second day option. But either way, when a customer goes to their site, they know exactly how much they're going to have to pay, and they know exactly when they're going to get that product, and they can be confident that it's going to arrive frozen and still delicious. You've also got Rudy's Barbecue on the left-hand side with a similar scenario. One of the coolest ones that I think is in the top right there, small company, Shark and Reef International. They ship live sharks. So if you think that you've got a scenario that we've never seen before, It's unlikely. We've got actually 2 or 3 folks that ship live sharks. They sell them online and ship them all over the country. And you'd be surprised at how many specific rules there are around where exactly you can ship live sharks. For example, you can't ship them to California, and there are certain states where you can't ship them if they're over 18 inches. And so this customer really needed some help making sure that they weren't offering sharks to people that couldn't receive sharks, but that they were still able to ship their other fish and their other aquarium accessories as well. So we have fun kind of seeing what what different retailers are selling and what some of their unique challenges are. So if you've got something interesting you want to talk through, give us a call or shoot over an email. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you and just find out a little bit more and advise you whether ShipperHQ is the right fit or not. There's sometimes cases where we say, well, you don't actually need to use ShipperHQ in this case. There's other options. Maybe it's one of our extensions. Maybe it's something you can do within Zoe natively. So we're always happy to kind of provide honest advice and feedback. Finally here, I just wanted to real quickly talk about the pricing. We talked earlier about some of the challenges of finding solutions, and one of those, of course, is cost. With ShipperHQ, we've tried to keep that cost as accessible as possible. So our pricing starts at $50 monthly with the Essentials plan. There's a lot you can do with that Essentials plan. You can see you've got one advanced feature there. You can see what the different advanced features are, but it's a lot of the stuff we've been talking about here. You've also got 2 carriers. So let's say you're in Canada or Australia and you just need to add in Australia Post or Canada Post or one of the other options that are more local. You can do that with the Essentials plan. From there, we go to the standard plan. That's the one that we have the most people on, and the reason for that is it's got a lot more flexibility to it than the Essentials plan. Not a massive jump in price, but you've got 2 advanced features. You got 4 carriers. You can do multi-origin stuff with this. Just a lot of options on the standard plan. For the most options of our 3 kind of base plans, the Pro plan has a lot of flexibility. The majority of retailers, unless you've got something extremely complex going on, the majority of retailers are going to find the Pro plan to be a good fit, even if you've got pretty complex stuff happening. And then finally, for retailers that really need full access to what ShipperHQ offers, the Enterprise plan, we can provide a price quote for that. Starts just a little bit above where the Pro plan ends. So that's our pricing plans. Like I said, we try to keep it accessible. What I always tell customers when I'm talking to them about pricing is just kind of focus on whether or not this is going to have enough ROI for you. We looked at earlier at some of the things like abandonment rates and decreased conversions that can happen by not offering accurate rating and not offering the options that your customers are expecting. You can be standing to lose a lot of money, like the guy who was losing $50,000 a year. Didn't take him long to make up the cost of ShipperHQ. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at the pricing here. You can make a pretty substantial difference even starting on the Essentials plan. So that's kind of my run through of what ShipperHQ does, and hopefully also providing you some information on some of the challenges that we see right now that are facing e-commerce merchants when it comes to shipping, and specifically front-end shipping. ShipperHQ, like I said at the beginning, is really complementary to what ShipStation, Shipping Easy, those kind of guys are doing. So while those guys can do a great job of helping you be more efficient in your warehouse or in your shipping and fulfillment, you can save a bunch of money by using those guys. What ShipperHQ is able to do is really change the picture when it comes to customer conversion. The numbers I showed earlier should show you how important that is, how important shipping is to customer conversion rates and abandonment rates. ShipperHQ can change that picture. So using the 2 together, you've got if you get a higher conversion rate by using ShipperHQ on the front end, and you save money by being much more efficient on the back end with one of the fulfillment software providers, you've got a pretty positive picture there, something that can really help with kind of the growth of your company. So hopefully it provides some useful information. I think now we'll go into a bit of a Q&A time. If you have any questions, feel free to send those in.
All right. Well, first off, thank you to Daniel for that great presentation. I hope that illustrates how ShipperHQ can fit into the e-commerce world, right? And how you can leverage that to help your customers have a better experience and also save you some money in the process. So we have some questions that have already come in. Thank you to those who've already submitted. And just a reminder for those of you who joined us later, you can use the questions feature and go to webinar to submit your questions, and we'll go through them right now. And then obviously, if any other questions come up after the presentation, you can email me. I'll show you my email address in a few minutes, so you can reach out to ask those questions, and I'll work with Daniel to get you the answers. But let's start with one that I thought was a really good question from one of our customers. He's noted that alternative delivery locations, when you kind of mentioned things like the Amazon locker and so forth, that's been a red flag sometimes from a credit card processing perspective, because usually if it's not matching what's on the billing address, they can sometimes see that as a risk. Do you have any notes or thoughts about how that works in sort of the shipping ecosystem today? Do lockers, for instance, tend to get a different sort of evaluation than, say, just putting in another address?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question, and just a little bit of background that I didn't give earlier about myself is for 6 years prior to joining ShipperHQ, I ran e-commerce operations for a mid-sized retailer up in the Midwest, and I can tell you that one of the things that we definitely had to deal with was kind of trying to mitigate fraud in any way possible. What I will tell you is that for most of the, when we're talking about alternate delivery options, especially when you're talking about kind of the lockers and things like that, what many of those shipping providers are now requiring is like a phone number in addition to the address. They require that so that they can notify the customer when the product is available for pickup. But that is one additional piece of information that the customer, what we found is the customer is normally willing to provide that because they perceive the benefit of that additional additional level of service by being able to pick up an item at a local location. The other thing is that most of the providers, if you look at, say, the UPS access point system, which is one of these alternate delivery options that ShipperHQ supports, they're going to require some form of ID when the customer comes in to pick it up. So if you're doing any sort of name matching against the credit card, you can use that as a way to kind of say, well, the person on the card needs to be the one to pick it up. I know that for many electronics retailers, that's something that they do, because fraud is such a significant issue for electronics retailers. What they'll do is that they require that the person whose name is on the credit card used, that they present ID with that name on it when they come to come to pick up the item. Obviously, it's very difficult to entirely prevent fraud, but some of those additional items, like requesting that phone number, and also the fact that these alternate delivery option providers like UPS are requiring ID for pickup, and you can kind of put rules in place, if you'd like, around that to say we're only going to offer that, or we're only going to allow pickup if that name matches the name on the card. You can tell the carrier what name to expect on the ID when you're shipping the item. Again, hard to completely eliminate it, but a number of those things help to mitigate it anyway.
Excellent, thank you. The next question I have comes from actual customer. ShipperHQ wants to know, does address validation work with the table rates feature?
It does, yeah. Address validation does work with the table rates. Now, we use UPS or FedEx. They both have address validation services, so you do need to have an account with at least one of those two. But if you have an account with them, you don't even necessarily need to show UPS or FedEx as an option. You can show only table rates if you'd like to, and use those as your address validation services. One of the other things that we actually recently added in within the past couple months is the ability to set up what we call shipping rules. When I was talking about the rules engine, shipping rules around address type. So you could set up, say, two different tables or have two different sets of rates based on the address type if you wanted to. So those are some of the options that are available, even if you're not offering a specific live rate carrier on the front end. You can still use address validation. It's still a pretty powerful tool, even in the rating sense with the address type.
Excellent. Thank you. And then a follow-up question there. What about estimating the shipping price on the product page? Does it work there as well?
Sure. Yeah. We have an extension called Product View Rates that I think either just rolled out or is just about to roll out on Zoe that allows for estimating shipping on the product pages. And this is kind of a complementary product to ShipperHQ. It's something that we actually sell on Magento, but for Zoe customers, we've agreed to provide it at no additional cost. So you would use those two, use ShipperHQ alongside that.
So the next question, when will it roll out? So when my last check, we were resolving one internal bug that we found during testing. Once that bug is resolved, it should be available. So my guess would be sometime probably in the next 7 to 10 days. Just depends on how long it takes to take care of that issue and then complete testing. So we're not expecting it to be that long. So for those of you who are looking for that, I'm happy to report that that's on its way. But yeah, that's been something we've been asked for a few times. So we're really glad to be working with the ShipperHQ team to bring that app to Zoe.
Yeah, it's a useful tool.
Absolutely. And then the last thing I have, unless any other questions come in the next minute or two, is just a note from one of the attendees saying that ShipperHQ works great on their site. So they're using the calendar feature and some other things. So that's just wanted to share that with those that are on here or maybe watching the recording. ShipperHQ is actually one of Zoe's most popular apps that are available. I think it's in the top 3 in terms of options that are available, and kind of makes sense when you think about it, because shipping and taxes and payments are really kind of the big 3 that most merchants deal with, and so we have kind of one of each of them in the top 3, and ShipperHQ is one of them. So I think it's kind of a testament to the flexibility and the vast feature set that ShipperHQ offers.
Yeah, it's the other thing is to mention what I mentioned a few other times, which is the fact that ShipperHQ and Zoe work so well together. Zoe's flexibility kind of allows us to offer a lot more options on Zoe. So there's a lot more you can do with ShipperHQ and Zoe than elsewhere.
Yeah, it's great that we're able to support so much of the ShipperHQ feature set on Zoe. I think it makes it a lot easier for merchants to get up and running. So I don't see any other questions in the queue, so I think we'll call it a session. As I promised before, if any questions come up afterwards, please feel free to email me at josh@zoe.com. I'll work with Daniel to get you an answer, and any interesting questions that come out of that we'll also share with all the attendees, so you can get that extra information sent to you. We also would love to have your feedback of the webinar. Feel free to email me as well as with any topics that you might want to learn more about. We do have more webinars to come. As I said, we have 10 recordings and counting on a variety of topics. Those recordings are also now available on YouTube. For those of you who are familiar with our Zoe channel, we also have some Zoe tutorials that are going up there. We are working on sort of a product import line right now of video tutorials, but we're going to be doing some B2B ones next, and we would love any input on topics for video tutorials for the future so we can work to get those produced. We also wanted to share with you that we do have 2 webinars coming up in August. We're going to be having a marketing discussion with the Zoe agency partner. This will be a little bit different than the SEO webinars that we had, because we'll be focusing on a different aspect of it, more around email marketing and monitoring how those activities lead to sales. And then we're actually bringing PayPal, one of our earliest partners, on for a webinar. We'll be talking about conversion and how payment processing actually matters in the conversion process. If you're a smaller merchant, for instance, you might sometimes have people who struggle to enter credit cards into your site because they just don't recognize your name, right? And they want to make sure that their card is secure. So we will definitely be covering some interesting points about how payment processors can actually affect conversion and what you should be thinking about. The real answer is you should have a mix of things. So we'll be talking with PayPal about that and some other topics. We'll have those registrations available on the Merchant Webinars page shortly, so keep an eye out for that. We should have it up in the next few days. And in the meantime, we really just want to say thank you for joining us on the series. We hope you got a lot of great information out of this, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with our next webinar. In the meantime, have a great afternoon or morning, as the case may be where you are, or even night. Uh, you could be in a different part of the world watching a recording, so don't want to make any assumptions. But in the meantime, thank you so much, and thanks to Daniel, and we'll talk to you all soon.